I get ready to do a plunge on a knife, or when I get ready to do the bevel on a knife, I'll set the target. On this one I use a set of dividers. I'm going to start with an 80 grit. I put an 80 grit target, is here. So I scribe that, and then I'm going to go to 120 grit, and so I put a 120 grit target up there. So then I scribe the lines like that on both sides, a target for the 80 and a target for 120 grit. I make a lot of these, and so I made a little tool to help me speed the process of marking my plunge line, so it's easy for me to transfer it from one side to the other. So I put that on there, I'll scribe the line. Then I'm going to use this other blank here as my carrier. It'll follow the little plate inside the guide. And I made this. This is just a couple pieces of aluminum bars that bolt together. Super simple to make those. I'll bolt that on there. Alright, now this 1-inch bar, this is 1-inch wide bar, it provides the offset because I will be bumping against the side of the guide, and so the belt is going to be in here, and this was going to be on the outside of the little guide angles. And so this is my offset. I use a 1-inch. I'll take that off. Alright, so now I've got my plunge line, got my 80 grit target and 120 grit target. I'll go ahead and start. What I'm going to do is I'll grind near the plunge line but not up to it. I'll grind the bevel to the 80, and I'll back up and cut the bevel. I'll back up the guide, I'll back the guide out, I'll move it over slightly, and then I'll do a clean plunge cut. So I'm about 1/60 of an inch from the plunge line. I'm going to go ahead and grind up to my 80 grit target at this position. And then later I will move over and clean off that last small amount. Position my belt right at the edge of the flat where I can just feel it. It's tracking nice right up the plunge, right parallel to the plunge line. I'm almost halfway to the target already. Yeah, I'm getting closer there. There's the target line right above my finger. A little over 1/8 of an inch left, about 3/16 of an inch left. I usually take a few passes on each time I move in, give it all a chance to cut in well. Alright, I'm down close, under 1/10 of an inch. I'm right on the line now. I hit the target. Up here I hit the target, and right here, and there's a slight hole in the middle. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to change to the 120 grit belt. Alright, to change belts, I come straight out. check the tracking. Again, I use the edge of the flatten so I know that this belt is in the same position as the last belt. Go ahead and move the guide back in. Back it up here so it's not jamming it. Lock it down. Start in again. Make a little black mark on here so I know when where I'm cutting. Just started to kiss it. Now for each 1,000 that I go in at 95.2 degrees, I go up about 11,000. Okay, so I'm headed for this next target line up here. Running about 6,200 feet per second on the belt speed. This machine will do 7,100. Alright, so I'm about halfway up to the target line. If you can see it on there. Moving back and forth a few times, give it time for the belt to work, do its thing. Alright, I'm down under an eighth of an inch, down under a tenth of an inch actually. Not much more. Alright, I'm down there under a 32nd of an inch, so I'm just going to tweak it 2-3 thousandths. Alright, hit the target line. I can still see part of it right there, and I'm exactly on it the rest of the way. Now what I'm going to do, you can see the plunge target, there's less than a 16th of an inch, maybe 0.050, that sort of thing. I'm going to start creeping the guide over, start creeping the guide in, and hit that target with this belt. So I'll back out. I'm going to back the guide out. I'm going to creep it over, about half of that. Just a very small amount, and I'm going to check it. And don't try to make the whole adjustment all in one shot. If you overshoot it, you can't go backwards once it's ground off. Alright, now put the blank all the way in against the stop, and I'll just go straight in. Put the belt blank all the way in. I'm just going to go straight in. Now that the guide has moved this direction, it's cut into that plunge. Now I felt it hit. I'm going to check it. Thought I felt it hit. Alright, didn't quite get there. Try again. Small amount. Just tweak it over. Take your time. Back out the guide. Put it in the blank. Set it down snug. Go straight in. can see that it's cutting straight up there. Let's tweak it over. Actually, I'm going to stop right there. I'm not going over anymore. I'm going to just cut that up and stop. I'll make a black mark on here so I know when I hit the bevel level, the bevel plane. I don't over-grind it on the depth. Alright, so straight in again, just a little bit. Alright, now you can see that it's cleaned all the way up there. Just starting to touch the black. You see the straight marks in the black. The plunge lines come up nice. Alright, nice and sharp plunge lines. Camera's not going to do it justice. I'm going to take that black off just a hair, because there's a slight bump right there. We'll go down until that black is just removed. Alright, now the black's gone, and the plunge is cut very sharp, very clean. And this side's finished for now. Alright, so this side's finished. You see that it's cut right up to the plunge target line. It's a clean, sharp, nice looking plunge cut. Nice line here where my target was. I'll put this on the other side and repeat. Okay, I've got my little plunge marker set up. This side doesn't go in there as smoothly. I think it's slightly crooked or something. Okay. And mark the plunge from the 120 grit target down. Put this on. Alright, this side's a little more difficult. I tapped it off on this side. Alright, so now I've got my 1-inch offset and the plunge line, 80 grit target, 120 grit target. Pull the guide straight out. I'm going to put the 80 grit belt back on. Now, I make sure I try to grind an even number of blanks on each side of the belt so that I don't wear down the edges and leave high spots in the middle, or wear down one edge and get a tapered belt, because when you're grinding with something like this, a high spot in the middle of 3 or 4 thousandths on the belt will make your plunge, the upper line on your bevel, not the plunge, will make the upper line on your bevel creep higher, because like I said, when the machine was running, for each 1/1000th of an inch at 95.2 degrees, each 1/1000th of an inch that I go in at the cutting edge goes vertical about 11/1000ths of an inch. So if you get 2 to 3, 4/1000ths difference wear on your belt, you're going to get 30 or 40/1000ths higher on part of your bevel grind line, the upper line on your bevel, and that just doesn't look good. So I try to make sure that I grind an even number on each side of the belt. So this side hasn't ground yet, so I'm going to flip it over and grind. Alright, back the guide all the way out. I'm going to slide this in. Oops, I'm going to make sure this is tracking right first. Damage your guide if you don't. Alright, now I've got some big nicks in my guide where I've turned it on with a new belt that was on there, and it would shoot over and just grind into the guide, so be careful about that. Alright, so that's going to be tightened up. I'm going to move the guide towards me this time for this side. I'm going to work that plunge. So I'll move it towards me so that I know that I'm good and far away from it, away from the plunge target. Alright, so I got a little over 1/8 of an inch to go. I'm going to cut that in half. What I'll do is I'll push the guide that direction about 1/16 of an inch. Back this up. Put that in. Hold it tight. Alright, I'll cut that about half. I'm going to cut a little bit more down. I don't want to take that much off on the final pass. I'll go in again. Going about 0.040, 0.050. Back the guide up. Put that in. Alright, so that's good. That's going to leave me just under 1/16 of an inch. Looks like about 0.040, something like that. 0.032. That's close enough for me without hitting it, without going over it. So I'm going to run this up to the 120 grit, I'm going to run this up to the 80 grit, change belts, go up to the 120, come back, cut the plunge. Alright, give your belt time to work, a couple passes. When I advance in, I leave this knife in this position so that it cuts the plunge. If you advance while the knife is in another position, when you come up against the plunge, your belt will start jumping across the flatten. It'll start yanking across. If you don't know what I mean, and you do that, you'll find out what I mean. It'll jump in and gouge out your plunge and mess it up. So I advance when the knife is all the way in. That's when I advance in. Okay, got about 1/4 inch left. Almost there. 1/16 of an inch. Alright, I'm on the 120 grit. I'm on the 80 grit target. Hit it. I'm going to change belt. Bring the guide straight out. Check the tracking. Alright, got it where I want it. Put the guide back in. I'm going to back it up. Lock it down. I'm going to go for the 120 grit target. I'm down to just about an eighth of an inch, a little more than an inch maybe. Oh yeah, cut that in half, about 1/16 of an inch. Alright, hit the 120 grit target. A nice even edge. This is my preheat jig grind. I'm going to bump in the very slightest amount. Actually, I'm not going to move it. The bevel looks really good, or the plunges look really good right off the bat. Now what happened was I got close to it, but then the belt crept a little bit, and so you can see that the plunges ended up even instead of having this one up a little bit higher that had to be cut back later. And that's why I leave a little bit of setback so I have room for the belt to move around, because it does when you're moving back and forth. We got a nice even thickness across the edge. I'll take that down later after heat treatment with 120. Like a 380 grit. I'll pitch this up a little bit higher. Alright, on the initial, when I removed it, this side was still slightly higher. First I thought I would be okay with it. I decided I wasn't okay with it, so I put it back together, put it in the machine again, and took off not very much at all, maybe 10 thousandths more on there to get them to where I'm satisfied with the way they look.